David texted, "Don't wait up, working late again." I looked at my phone, a small smile forming. His location showed he wasn't heading to his office. He was going to his other house in Oakwood Heights, the one he thought I didn't know about. I'm Anna Porter. For 3 years, I've watched my husband of 15 years live a secret life, thinking I was too naive to notice. The clues were everywhere: suspicious credit card charges, whispered phone calls, and business trips that didn't add up. But David underestimated me. "You're just a housewife," he'd say when I asked about our finances. "You wouldn't understand." What he didn't know was that before I became a housewife, I worked in forensic accounting. I left my job when our daughter Sophie was born, but I never lost my ability to follow the money. Sitting in our living room, I opened my laptop and checked the bank statements. Another large transfer to an account I had already traced. David thought he was smart, hiding money through his company. He had no idea I had been tracking every transaction, every lie. My phone buzzed. Sophie. She was away at college. "Mom, did you know Dad was in town last week? My roommate saw him with some woman and a little boy at the mall." I took a deep breath. "Really? That's interesting. He told me he was in Chicago for a conference." "Mom, is everything okay?" "Everything's fine, sweetie. Focus on school. I've got this handled." I closed the message and pulled out a thick folder filled with bank records, property documents, and photos. 3 years ago, when I first got suspicious, I hired a private investigator. That's how I found out about Maria, a young executive at David's company, and their 5-year-old son, Thomas. At first, it crushed me. 15 years of marriage and he had another family. But instead of confronting him right away, I watched and waited. I wanted to know everything. I learned how he met Maria during a company retreat, bought them a house, set up trust funds, and spent weekends with them, pretending to be on business trips. He even gave Thomas his grandfather's middle name, the same one he refused to give Sophie because it wasn't sophisticated enough. The front door opened. David walked in, loosening his tie. "Hey honey, rough day at the office," he said, kissing my cheek. He smelled of unfamiliar perfume and faintly of bubble bath. "I bet it was," I said, closing my laptop. "How's the Miller account?" He launched into a long story about meetings and deadlines. I watched him lie, noticing how his left eye twitched, a habit I'd known since we met. "You seem distracted," he said. "Just thinking about something interesting I learned today," I said lightly. "Did you know Oakwood Heights has one of the best school districts in the state? Thomas must be doing well there." David froze. His face turned pale. What are you talking about?" I pulled out a photo, him, Maria, and Thomas at a school carnival. "He has your eyes," I said, but his mother's smile. "Anna, I can explain," he stammered. "It's not what you think." "It's exactly what I think," I interrupted. 3 years, 4 months, and 12 days. That's how long I've known. Every lie, every dollar you took, every weekend you spent with them instead of us. I have it all documented. David collapsed onto the couch, his confidence gone. "How? Why didn't you say anything?" I stood gathering my folder. "Because I needed to be sure what kind of man I married. And now I am." I walked toward the stairs, then turned back. "Oh, and David, don't bother checking our accounts tonight. You might find some surprises." His eyes widened in panic. "What did you do?" I paused at the top of the stairs. "Nothing yet. But don't worry. Everything is perfect." As I shut our bedroom door, I heard him scrambling to make calls. My phone buzzed. A message from my lawyer. "Everything is in place. Should we move to phase 2? I typed one word. "Perfect." This morning, I woke up to find David's side of the bed empty. He had spent the night in his office, making frantic phone calls and trying, and failing, to access our frozen accounts. I could hear him pacing downstairs, his footsteps heavy with stress. I took my time getting ready, carefully applying my makeup and slipping into a crisp white blouse and black pencil skirt. Today was important. Today was the day I had been planning for 3 years. When I came downstairs, David was waiting at the kitchen counter, looking exhausted. "Anna, we need to talk," he said, his voice rough. "I know I made mistakes, but we can fix this." I poured myself a cup of coffee, stirring slowly. "Like how you fixed things with Maria? Buying her a house and moving our money into secret accounts." His face darkened. "You don't understand. It was about protecting our assets, Maria's house, Thomas's trust fund. It was all just business investments. I let out a short laugh. Business investments? That's your excuse. I pulled out my phone and played a recording. David's voice, telling Maria he would leave me soon, that she and Thomas were his real family now. You recorded me? He sputtered, his face flushing. That's illegal. Not when you're having these conversations in public places. The park where you meet Thomas, the restaurants where you celebrate secret anniversaries, all legal. David gripped his coffee mug, his hands shaking. What do you want? Money? I can work something out. I don't want your money, David. I want justice. I pulled out a folder and set it on the counter. These are copies of financial records proving you've been moving our joint assets into private accounts. Accounts that, as of last night, are frozen and under investigation for fraud. He lunged for the papers, but I stepped back. Don't bother. These are just copies. The originals are with my lawyer, the bank fraud department, and your company's board of directors. His face turned pale. The board? His voice cracked. You sent this to the board? Of course. They deserve to know what their CFO has been doing with company funds. His phone buzzed. He grabbed it desperately. As he read the message, all the remaining color drained from his face. They're calling an emergency meeting. I'm suspended pending investigation. He looked up at me, realization sinking in. How long have you been planning this? I took a sip of my coffee. Remember 3 years ago when you told me I wouldn't understand finances because I was just a housewife? That's when I started. Every lie, every transaction, every secret, I documented it all. Maria, he started. Already knows, I cut in. She got the documents this morning, including proof that her house was bought with embezzled company funds. She's probably trying to reach you right now. Right on cue, his phone rang. Maria's name flashed on the screen. David stared at it, frozen. You should answer, I said. She'll want to know why her accounts are frozen too. He stumbled out of the kitchen, his voice panicked as he picked up the call. Maria's frantic voice echoed from the other room. My own phone buzzed. Sophie. Mom, is it true? Did Dad really have another family? I had prepared for this moment. Yes, sweetie, but don't worry. I've made sure you're protected. Check your email. I sent you something important. David returned, looking lost. Maria's threatening to sue me. The house, the trust fund, everything's frozen. Anna, please, we can figure something out. I gathered my things. No, David, we can't. But don't worry. You're good at managing things, aren't you? As I walked to the door, he called after me. Where are you going? I turned back. The man standing there wasn't the powerful, confident person who had once belittled me. He was a desperate fraud watching his world fall apart. I have a meeting with the board, I said. They're very interested in how you've been using company funds for your personal life. You can't do this to me, he whispered. I'm not doing anything to you, David. You did this to yourself. I'm just making sure everyone knows the truth. I opened the front door, then paused. Oh, and one more thing, he might want to call your lawyer. Mine will be in touch soon about the divorce. I stepped outside into the bright morning sunlight. Behind me, David stood in the doorway of what he thought was his perfect life. Phase 2 was complete. Everything was going exactly as planned. Everything fell apart for David just as I had planned. Within a week, he was officially fired as CFO. The board's investigation found even more fraud than I had uncovered. His career was ruined. Maria, terrified of losing everything, turned on him. She sued him, claiming she had no idea where the money came from. The house he bought for her was seized as part of the fraud case. Sitting in my lawyer's office, I reviewed the latest updates. The divorce is moving quickly, Jessica, my attorney, said. With the fraud charges and his legal troubles, he can't fight it. And Sophie's trust fund? I asked, though I already knew. Completely safe. You moved it before all of this started. She won't lose a penny. I nodded, relieved. Sophie had always been my priority. David had failed her as a father, but I never would. Surprisingly, Sophie took the news well. I always knew something wasn't right, she told me in a video call. He always missed important things, got defensive about his phone. I just never thought it was this bad. I'm sorry you had to find out like this, I said. Don't be, Mom. You protected us. You're the strongest person I know. Her words meant everything. A month later, David asked to meet. We sat in a quiet coffee shop. The same one where he used to meet Maria. The irony wasn't lost on me. I lost everything, he admitted, looking older. The board is pressing charges. Maria's suing me. She won't let me see Thomas. His voice cracked. Actions have consequences, David, I said. You made your choices. He shook his head. How did I not see it? I thought I was so clever, keeping my secret life. But you saw everything. You didn't see it because you didn't want to, I replied. You underestimated me. You thought I was just a housewife. That was your biggest mistake. He looked at me, eyes red. Is there any chance? No, I cut him off. The divorce will be final next month. You should focus on your fraud charges. As I stood to leave, he called after me. I really did love you once. I turned back. No, David. You loved the version of me that didn't question you. But I was always more than that. You just never noticed. 6 months later, I sat on my new apartment's balcony, watching the sunset. Sophie was home for spring break, studying at the table behind me. The divorce was final. David pleaded guilty to fraud to get a lighter sentence. Maria moved away with Thomas. Mom? Sophie called. Dad's lawyer emailed me. He's trying to appeal his sentence. Let him, I said. The evidence isn't going anywhere. She joined me on the balcony. You know what's funny? He never thought you'd figure it out. He always treated you like I was just a housewife. I smiled. Some people only see what they want to. Your father saw someone who wouldn't question him. He never looked deeper. His loss, Sophie said, hugging me. Oh, and I got an A on my forensic accounting midterm. Guess I take after my mom. I laughed, holding her close. Life wasn't perfect, but it was honest. No more lies, no more pretending. My phone buzzed with a message from Jessica. Final restitution papers filed. Everything's done. I typed back one word. Perfect. Looking out over the city lights, I realized I had lost a husband, but gained something more valuable. Self-respect, my daughter's admiration, and proof that I was stronger than anyone, especially David, had ever imagined. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, it's moving on. And that's exactly what I had done.